I've been so blind, didn't like where I put it at. I didn't know when to find out to put it back. Wanted it bad, didn't know how you would react. I was on hold and I knew that it wouldn't last. I've been a flake, then you came in waving me. You told me wait, then I said well wait and see. You weren't aware that I had some latency. You didn't care when I said there's no vacancy. Taking a drink and taking a bump, catching some Z's and making some...
What's up, guys? It's Colt back here with another episode of Venture Forward. We have Ryan, aka Strategy, and Cory on our podcast today to talk about music, to talk about just hip hop, a little background. About, what has it been, 15 years ago, I think we made one of our first tracks.
Has to be, yeah.
So, yeah, man, how you guys been?
Good, man.
Yeah,
just living.
Yeah, living.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, you've been doing music. What got you into music, man?
You got me into music.
I got you into music. Okay.
Yeah,
humble.
Yeah, I mean, way back in the day when we were in I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. We used to go to your 4th of July parties every year.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, damn, this dude's killing it. and I've always obviously loved rap and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just kind of like tagged onto that, and I was like, show me how to do this shit. You know? I was like. And then
so my family holds a 4th of July party every year. We used to hold a concert every 4th of July. We haven't done that in several years. We might have to do it this year. But this guy, you're leaving us, based out of Colorado now, but going to Las Vegas, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you excited?
I am, yeah. It's going to be a little different than Colorado, you know. But
and then, Cory, you're in Pennsylvania now, right?
Yeah, I've been there for about 2 or 3 years now.
2-3 years, nice. All right.
Damn, it doesn't even seem like that long, but
it doesn't.
It
doesn't.
It's crazy.
So going back to music, man, what's I guess your year plan as far as, are you gonna release any music here soon or?
Shit, these days my year plan is to release a song. That's what it seems like. But
okay.
No, I actually have a lot of music. I just haven't actually put it out. You know what I mean? I could list a million different reasons why, but. Yeah, I don't know. I think for the next year within music, I just want to get more consistent, you know, putting consistent music out, videos, photos, stuff like that, and just constantly doing it. I'm not super active on social media, so I think I need to up that tip. But
yeah, that's a problem I struggle with a little bit, is the social media game. I feel like we're in a 21st century where you have to have some type of social media game. But I have also seen other artists who don't even have social media, and they're still thriving. And that's more they're in their own city as far as their scene,
for sure.
And kind of communicating with the rappers or beat makers, whoever it is, and making like a community.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like we had for a long time. Like, honestly, if we were making music, we were usually always together making music. So.
Well, I think that's the difference too, is artists like that, they built that community locally, you know what I mean, and they've been grinding, so they don't need to jump on that social media because they already have that.
Yeah. But
then people like us, where we kind of fell off with that community angle of it, you know, so we got to get on that social media to progress. But I don't know, I can't get with it for some reason. I don't know.
I don't mean to toot our own horn, but man, we had a MySpace music page. So that just proves how long we've been making music.
No shit.
But when we're the first ones in our high school to do that type of thing, like now we know so many of our high school homies that have gotten into music even a decade later.
Yeah.
Like maybe that impact
that blows my
didn't
mind.
hit immediately after, but it still planted that seed in their head so that they go, you know, there's something else that we could do. Maybe we could do that too.
Yeah. Going back to your high school days, so what, when you were writing music and when you were actually like, I wouldn't say like 100% cocky with it, but back when we were younger, we always like, we're going to do this. This is going to be my dream. And now that you've gotten older, how has the scene changed, and how does that affect your music?
That's a tough one. Yeah, because I mean, back then, like we were young, right? And you said it was on that whole like, this is our dream, we're gonna do this. So we're like constantly, and we lived at home, right? I didn't have a job, or I think I had like a part-time job living at my mom's house, so I had tons of time. We were at school, so we saw people every single day, so it was easy, like you said, to pass those CDs out and, you know, stuff like that. But then now that we're older, like we're adults, we have grown, you know, jobs, like you know, girlfriends, significant others, whatever, you know. And so it's definitely matured a lot, I feel like. And like you said with the social media stuff, like I've been, I think, so far out of it that now I'm realizing like what I need to like get my shit back in there. And it's just like, I don't know if I'm just not motivated enough, but
yeah, at the same time
different.
though, you don't want to fall victim to just putting stuff out there just because you need to hit the social media mark, or you need to like post something that day, so you just throw down a verse that really doesn't really hold
100%.
Any value to you, right? Like, go on.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But there's what he was just saying, like some of the, more local people and stuff that are coming up now or whatever. I feel like that's one of their main things is let's just put out as much music as I can, whether it's good or not. I don't really care. Let's just get it out there so I have, a whole Spotify discography you could listen to, but none of it is worth any sort of quality, you know what I mean? At least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think I take it too far sometimes though, because I want that quality, and so then I just never end up putting anything out because I'm like, no, it's not good enough. So then nothing ever gets put out.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's a big bifurcation that happened between the digital world and the real world. I'm saying that about like praise. Like you said, we were really, I guess, like cocky or confident that we're going to be rappers and we're going to make it big and like this is going to pay the bills and stuff. But I think that was kind of stemmed off of what we were hearing from some of our peers at the time. And maybe not only the artists that we were working with, but I remember so many people in the high school were like, yo, like, you're going to make it big. Like, I'm going to be your friend because you're going to make it big.
Don't forget me when you make it.
Like, I heard that so often, and friends just stopping me in the hallway to do a freestyle or something. And, like, it actually got really taxing. Like, every time I'm around, it's like, yo, this is my rapper friend. He can rap. And they're like, yo, bust a freestyle.
They're overworking you.
Like, I can't just do this all the fucking time. But when it went to, like, the online shift, then what I saw happening there was the exact opposite of that. Like, no praise.
Yeah.
And it's just like
100%.
Like, your vocals are terrible, and like there's no message here, and I can't hear you. Now that was true.
Yeah.
I couldn't really mix the vocals in. But then it was the exact opposite, and like I don't know, that negative feedback really got into my head. And
do you think it was because a lot of people are just keyboard warriors, and two parts of this question. Keyboard warriors in a sense where they're detached from the music or the creativity or knowing you as like a person and actually like hearing your music and seeing the work ethic that you put in it. They just see the final product being the song. Like, do you think like they're just a little bit detached from that? Because sometimes like, man, we put work into songs where a song could take 10 minutes and we're like, okay, cool, we got it. Or that song takes a week because we're just writing, we add this and this. And then you put it out and somebody's like, oh man, I don't like that one word that you just said. And doesn't that just turn you off from the whole song at that point?
And like you just said, you're putting all this work into these little things like panning and just like these effects and stuff. And then like you put it out and nobody hears that. They don't hear any of the little details you put in there. They're just like, what did he say right there? And they're like misinterpreting words you said or whatever. And like another tip to that too is I think on social media, and I'm guilty of it too, so I'm kind of a hypocrite, but how many times do we scroll, you know what I mean? And somebody posts a song, whether it's local or a big artist, and you listen to like, oh, that was cool, and then you just keep going. Yeah. You don't actually do anything. Like I almost never comment on YouTube videos and Facebook videos and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people will fall victim to that, where I don't think it's like any like sort of thing that's out of hatred or anything, or any like negative thing. Sometimes I just think it's so easy to be lazy, and like you're not with that person. Like he said, when you're in school and you're actually connecting with these people, passing things out to them. And now it's just like they're in their room just scrolling like, oh, that was cool, but yeah, I'm just going to move on. And then it goes nowhere, you know what I mean?
Did you guys ever struggle with the fact that we are Caucasian and we want to rap? Did you ever have any type of feedback or like, hey man, maybe this isn't your lane, maybe you should do something else? And then how did you approach that?
I think I heard the exact opposite. I don't know if it was because of the way that I wanted my voice to sound on a song, or maybe I just have a naturally sounding voice for rap. But a lot of people were like, oh, wait, you're white. It's like, no shit, you're telling me, like, I didn't know this.
That's funny, yeah.
Like,
I have had that.
I have one very fond memory. I wish I knew the individual's name. He was a photographer at a concert at one of the 4th of July Funky Farm parties.
Oh, okay.
And I had one of the lyrics at the time, which I'm forgetting now. Something along the lines, because I'm not black and I'm white, was in a song, and I performed that on the stage, and I actually got love from that instead. Like he pulled me off to the side and he's like, yeah, like you're not black, like we all kind of can understand this, it's obvious, but this is obvious that it's coming from your heart. And like if there's anything about the black artists that are successful, it's not because they're black, It's because they're coming from their heart. And
yeah, and I feel like a lot of music that we make and that we listen to is dubbed underground hip hop. And I would say the more I dive into hip hop and I like talk to people about hip hop, Atmosphere, for some reason I think he created that like subdivision of rap, and to a point, because everyone, when they think of Atmosphere, they think of Slug, who was actually the rapper of Atmosphere. And I feel like every time like I go to release music or something, somebody hears it for the first time, they're like, oh man, you're like an underground rapper. That's immediately where they put me. Like, they put me there. It's not that I want to be there, but I just feel like just going with our music, it's always been somewhat underground and we're telling a story, but kind of appreciate the culture as well.
I think so, like, going back to what you just said previously, like, even right now, so I went to a new facility at work, right? And I didn't tell anybody I make music. And they started finding my Facebook on the suggested friends.
Okay.
Started getting around the facility that I make music or whatever, right? And every single person, I swear, that has heard my music now at that place, and they're like, oh, Sanchez is a gangster rapper. Oh, Sanchez thinks he's a black rapper. Like, there's like that stigma around that for some reason. And then with the underground stuff, like you said, we are, I think, kind of like put into that little category, which is fine, I think, because it is like that style of music, I guess, because a lot of stuff you hear nowadays, it's not super storytelling, it's not super like deep or anything like that, and a lot of our stuff
is wrong with that.
No,
for the longest time I struggled with like, oh, that's pop rap or this, but the more I like think about it, it's like mainstream. If they can make that music and people enjoy it, whatever, man. Yeah,
you like what you like. Like, if it sounds good, that. And see, I've grown as a person because when I was young, and you guys introduced me to a lot of these underground artists, and I had this like, even like when we were hanging out, I had this mental thing where I was just like, if it was played on the radio, I hated it. Didn't matter who it came from. If it was mainstream, I hated it, and if it wasn't underground, I didn't like it. And then now I'm just like, anything that sounds dope, whatever type of music it is, I don't care. If it's dope, it's dope. You know what I mean? I
want to say that, I remember the time we had a beef because I think your favorite rapper of the time was Aesop Rock, and my favorite rapper of the time was Lil Wayne. And like, how are we making music together? But that was some of the magic that we had.
Yeah.
I remember you saying it's like, I don't want nobody on the hook unless it's TKO, and I was like, well, good, because you're getting the first verse, dog.
Yeah, I do remember that stuff.
Yeah, looking back at it now, like, Lil Wayne solidified himself as like being one of the like dopest rappers, right? And even I hated on Lil Wayne for a short stint, and then I like gave in to like, hey man, dude's making a lot of music and he hits on a lot of his songs, and he has hits, right? And then obviously Drake came in, and then I think when Drake came in, it brought that like, not sad boy rap, but you could be more personable about your music, and at a mainstream level. Like underground, we always told stories and shit like that, but mainstream, I felt like Drake kind of turned the game. And then I feel like nowadays you hear more emotions and stuff in rap. Because before that I feel like it was just kind of party music. You know what I mean? It really did.
And like just Lil Wayne talking shit, like stuff like that. And I think that he did kind of come in and like kind of turn that tide a little bit, but for like mainstream kind of.
That's why I hate when people say exactly what you just said, like, oh, he's trying to be a gangster rapper. That's why I sometimes don't even project myself as doing music until people find out. I like them to find out, and they're like, oh shit. And it adds a little mystique to your vibe, like, oh, he's a rapper? Oh, he makes beats? Oh, that's like, cool.
You didn't tell us? Like,
Going back to you, Cory, man.
What's up?
You're in Pennsylvania now. How's life been?
Yeah, it's good. I started up with this restaurant store company.
Okay.
It's a warehouse that stocks restaurant equipment.
Oh, that's
so sick. They've done fairly well through the pandemic. Okay. They stock a lot of places with napkins and single-use stuff like forks, knives, and spoons.
Are you able to listen to music while you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Does that give you a little bit of creativity while you're working and stuff?
Yeah. I've always been a music aficionado, so anything. I like music altogether.
Oh, yeah, I know. Some of your verses, man, I got to dive into like 6 times, and I'm like, how did I miss that? How did I miss that? Yeah. Going back to our music, what has been one of your guys' favorite tracks that you've done personally or with one of us? Question for either one of you. What do you think is your best track? If somebody was to pull up Strategy right now Ryan, right?
It's Ryan.
Ryan, yes.
Spell RVXN. It's
RVXN. Sorry. Going back to our younger days, this was Strategy, and this was TKO, and I was Colt 45, their names didn't stick, but obviously
It stuck with the people who knew it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
people call
always
me
gonna
Strategy.
be Colt 45. I mean, that one was just easy to me. So, but yeah, going back to our last podcast with Just Jay, we talked about name changing, and Kevin has always been a different name. I feel like he's had several names. But yeah, let's go back to that question. What has been one of your favorite tracks?
So easily, it's a track that I have called Demon.
Okay.
And it kind of flew under the radar. I put it out on SoundCloud. It was like a little mixtape that I did.
Okay.
Our little EP, and I think it got like 50 views or something like that. But it's easily one of my favorite songs. It's on kind of like almost like a boom bap kind of, not really boom bap, but like an old school hip hop type of beat. And it just talks about real shit. You know what I mean? I was going through a breakup at the time, which a lot of my music is about about breakups, but it was going through that, and then just some substance abuse issues and just things like that, and just kind of saying how the person that I was with turned out to be a demon, you know, to me. But then later on, the second verse talks about how, oh shit, how could I be, you know, I guess I'm the demon, maybe, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of a little reflection too, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of where I started maturing a little bit more with some of my music too. So
I think my favorite one still goes COLORADO, repping Colorado when you know we. Yeah, dude,
that's
I forgot about
I remember you
that,
performing that
shit.
one,
Yeah.
and that was just nuts. Like, to actually have an anthem for like the place where we were, I felt like
it's
that was
so
gonna blow
crazy
up
to
so
me
hard.
that you brought up that song, because me and Kevin were just talking
That's
about
funny.
it, and I actually took it off YouTube because at the time, man, we were kids. We wanted to make a music video for it, and I had a red Colorado Rockies hat, and it matched my San Francisco 49ers jersey, so I wore that, right? And thinking back, we're repping Colorado. Why would I be repping San Francisco? That was, people hated on that, bro. I got so much hate
because
on
of the
that.
clothing?
Yeah, because
Oh
like,
my
dude,
God.
you're supposed to be repping Colorado. You're wearing San Francisco stuff. And then I know Kevin got a little bit of hate on it, so I actually ended up taking it down. But that would be a fun track to redo and remix. I think that would be awesome. Like 12 years later.
I think that's something that I'm realizing now is like, we never really blew up, right? So there's no harm in going back and re-recording some of these things and re-releasing them.
No, yeah. A lot of what I talked about in the last podcast with Just Jay was about how this music that we as artists put out one day, and maybe it's 5 years ago, and only gets, 50 views, like you said. Why not re-release it or remaster it and then try to rebrand yourself with that music and actually try to go all in and re-release that music, or just promote it still? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But in our minds, right, we're just like,
it's played out. It's old.
That's
we
old.
Can't. We can't bring that. It's not coming back to life. Like, and I've actually. It's funny you say that, because that's that song that I just told you about. I've literally had that exact thought, to where it's like, I want to re-put it out, but I have that that block in my head where I'm just like, I can't, like, it's old. And then I'm going to put it out, and then somebody who heard it, they're going to be like, oh, this isn't new. I've heard this before or something. And so then I never do it. And I don't know why.
Speaking of new shit, you got any?
Yeah, I got a little bit. I do.
Yeah. Tell the fans what's coming up for Ryan.
I just released a couple on Spotify. So go check that out. RVXN. There's one called Shadows. I think that was my newest one.
Okay.
And then I got some stuff I got to do a little crate digging, but I got some stuff that's, I think some of my best work, I would say. I just got to figure out how I want to actually like put it out and kind of, like you said, brand that. And so I'm going to go on this real quick. So one of my friends, David, right? Mm-hmm. We kind of did like a little test one time. So we put a song out to like no animations, no videos, no nothing like that. It was just a song, right? Got like 500 views or something like that. Every time we put something out with a video, and it caps at like 3,000-4,000 or something, but we always get more putting music out with something. So I think that's kind of where I'm stuck right now with some of my new music too, is I want to put it out, but I don't have that like content to put out with it. So I just haven't done it yet, but stay tuned, because it's coming. It's just, I got to figure out how I want to push it.
Sometimes going back to quality is the struggle with quality for video. Sometimes, like, Cory right here is about to drop one of the dopest, hottest videos. Time-lapse beat made the beats.
Fire.
Shout out. But shout out to David for taking the visuals. David took it.
I got a time-lapse beat. David took it on my pictures and videos, and it's recorded at Out the Box Entertainment.
Shout out Danny. Out the Box.
He recorded it? Shout out to him too. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes,
and that's where we go back to the community, right? Like once you can build a community of people that are not in our same profession but helping out each other, right? Like the video, like David also does photography and stuff like that, but him helping us out and then, or helping you out, and then like releasing that gives you X amount of fans that he has that may not be introduced into your music but will be, and that's just awesome to me. Like I've been working with one of my friends. He's a MMA fighter, and I've just been making beats and videos for him, and that's gotten me fans through his little martial arts studio. It's just about reaching out to other people, and I feel like building that community. I can't stress that.
You just need those connections too.
Bring everyone to the table. We all eat.
Why not? I think there's a big, like right now, I feel like there's a lot of local people. Like you said, you got the MMA stuff, that connection you made. David is, I mean, that guy's wild with his connections right now. I mean, if I could just take some of the knowledge that he has and use that in my music and push that'd be nice. But I think there's also like another side to where people sometimes aren't willing to, like, for some reason make those connections, or and I think sometimes it might be just us that aren't putting those, you know, that reach out, and I think that's a big reason why our music starves from it, or our
and it's crazy growth. Some of your not biggest fans, I mean some of your best friends or some of your friends won't share your music, right?
Oh, dude,
like,
100%.
It's like
they won't even push the like button. It's like, you're supposed to be one of my closest homies. You're not even liking my music. Like, how do you expect me? So it's
crazy dynamic. So I found that I get the most love from people that don't know me.
For sure.
Because they actually take a listen to my music. They don't just, like, when I show them a song, just start talking when
I hate that.
Shut up. Like, we were jamming some music earlier, and I told you, like, we were talking, but I'm going to take a deeper dive. And then, like, I like to listen, make sure, like, oh, this and that, and give you feedback that can be constructive and not be hindersome to, like, your outlook or your vibe of the track. Like I was saying, where sometimes you release stuff and someone... I don't know if it's being petty, but sometimes people just say stuff because they're not doing anything.
Yeah, maybe.
They're not making anything, so they're gonna shit on your parade real quick, right?
And they do.
It's a bummer, right? So I don't know. I think it's back to the social media thing, but regardless of that,
I know that's a fact. Some people just get their kicks bringing people down.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think one thing that's really big that I love that both of y'all have done is, like, back when we were making music, it was more just like the music. And we had no brand. We didn't have anything to, like, stick it to. It was something. And now when I know, like, I just go and type time-lapse beats and I go, no, it's all one word. Pulls up your page and we can just dive straight into your shit. Same thing with RVXN. I type RVXN, I get my dude's music, pull it up, I can show anybody that I want. And so having that brand to fall back on, like David took it, like, it's perfect.
I mean, shout out.
Google search you,
David took it.
He made that like the logo look or the shirt, or what?
Both actually. So he got it made for me, but what he was just saying is, like, having that brand. David is like part of why I have, like, everything that looks like this is because of David, and so he kind of helped make that brand.
If you're viewing now, David took it. He's based out of Pueblo. He's a photographer, a videographer. But yeah, shout out to him. I know you guys definitely have real close ties with him. That's awesome. So maybe I know both of you guys are out of state. Maybe me and him can collab. But I have asked him some questions. I remember, what music video was that for? Shadows? He made a music video where you're driving in a car. You seen some cop lights, and then you had that chick.
It's called What You Do to Me.
What You Do to Me. Yeah, he produced that video, correct?
Yeah.
Right? And dude, I was like, instantly in his DM, like, hey, what lens did you use? How did you do this? Because I'm all about, like, learning, man. He showed me the time, man. He emailed me back like, hey, this is what I did, this is the filters, and he's all about that. Respect to that dude. So.
Hey, that's what I was telling you, like, especially with him and his connections and, like, the friendships that he's made with his photography and stuff like that. There's so many people that he works with, and they give him knowledge. He's cool to give people knowledge, and, like, even if I asked him today, yo, can you show me how to do some of this video stuff so I can help, do some of my own stuff, he would easily, help me out. And so that's pretty dope. But
yeah. When you move out to Vegas, which is in 2 weeks, correct?
Like a little over a week.
Okay. Do you think you're going to try to promote music out there to people that you don't know, or how's that aspect of your music going to go? Have you even thought about it?
I was just going to say I haven't even thought about it. To be honest with you, I'm not going to stop making music, but it'll probably just be the same social media, trying to push that. I don't really know how to like change it locally, I guess, or like, fit the vibe of Vegas. I don't really know how to.
I mean, there's a lot of people, if you've ever been to Vegas, sitting there with cards like, hey, you gonna go out there and do that? Get some Ryan cards made up?
Some business cards, yeah. I think when I went to Vegas, because I've been there a few times, and when I went the first time, I got like 3, like a mixtape handed to me, like cards. I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. There's nothing wrong with that
hustle. I mean, we used to do it, right? You said you used to sling mixtapes out of the van, right?
Dude, we used to take stacks to school and shit.
Even worse, selling them in the hallway of school.
Yeah.
Yo, that actually helped us though. Like, I think almost going back to like what you said earlier, like being at school and like around everybody. I remember I had a song put on the radio, and one of my friends like told the principal during like announcements or something like that in the morning.
Yeah.
And they made an announcement at school to like go vote for Ryan Sanchez, like his song, and I was like, that obviously helped because then I got a shit ton of votes because the principal or whoever like announced that I had a song out. You know what I mean?
That's super cool, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So I think it's tough
because that was what was that song that you had on the radio?
See Through Me.
See Through Me.
Yeah,
it was good.
And then I felt. You can say I'm wrong, but I felt like that was the breakthrough with your music, where you realized I can.
Damn, I'm actually good.
Yeah, I'm pretty decent at it, right? Like,
I've listened to that song recently, like within the past like 6 months, and it's still a banger.
Yeah.
Oh, your remix is freaking incredible.
Yeah.
I forgot you remixed it.
Yeah, with me and Kevin. That was crazy. But yeah, that's when I realized, like, oh, this guy's doing it big. Like, it's dope.
Yeah. For sure. Because before that, we were just making some. What did we like that? Welcome to Our Mind. So we just had some like mixtape type stuff, which kind of copied some of that little style off of your shit. But that was just kind of like that motivation to like start making that music. But yeah,
we did get accused of being swagger jackers.
You remember that?
That did happen.
Of who?
Of you.
Me?
I think we had like 2 or 3 tracks that sounded almost identical, like almost the same beat, like the same.
It's so funny to see the growth over, because obviously our audience doesn't know some of the music that we heard back in the day, like the track 719. I would throw that in the trash right now, to be honest with you. We tried auto-tune. And, it was bad, but it was that creative process that every artist goes through, right, when you're younger. And I feel I'm much older now. I'm 30 years old. I feel I've gotten to a point with my music where I realized some of the stuff or content that I'm bringing, I want to put into the music for the sole purpose of the listener and not just myself. So sometimes I'll get caught up where I write a verse and I'm like, nobody really knows what I'm going through, so I'm not sure if I'm going to put that or if I'm going to maybe make this one line that can be relatable to other people, because I want more people to be involved in it. So that's where I battle with myself. I battle with myself because of that. And I think it's kind of hindered me from releasing a lot of stuff. But honestly, it's made a lot of my music better because I want it to be a little bit relatable, but also tell my story, you know?
Right. Yeah, that is a fine line. I think I just tell my shit. I don't I don't want to sound like I don't care about like fans or anybody who listens to my music, but it's like that's my shit. Like, because even if I don't go anywhere with music and nobody else listens to another song, I'm still gonna make it. You know what I mean? So I think I just that's maybe where I.
No, that's also a good mentality to have.
Like, I'm gonna make my shit whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
To know that you're a musician and that it doesn't matter who's listening. I recently read about authors. They said a terrible author writes for themselves. A great author writes for others. And I think that that's something that's big into poetry, because whether or not, if you're a poet, like, you are writing for other people, but you're also writing to get yourself out of your head, I think. Most of the time that's what I was doing too. I think that's a good segue to go into my new song, Like Shakespeare. Not to self-promote, but that's song...
That's what we about, man. That's what it's about.
Is written about another individual, and he now runs Out the Box Entertainment.
Oh, okay.
And he was having a really hard time with substance use and abuse, and recognized that he was going down the wrong path. But it has this battle between a bit of selfishness, because we were friends as much as we wanted to work with each other, and he wanted me to hang out with him one day, and he was with his crew that were abusing methamphetamines.
Oh shit.
And I was with my crew that was abusing cannabis, and we just didn't mesh together. And I had a feeling in my heart that was like, I really want to hang out with you because you're cool and like we vibe together well, but when it comes to that sort of substance, I don't want to be around something like that because it's a slippery slope. And he learned over the next 8 months that it can really be that bad, to the point that it'll take control of your life. And he went through a program for 90 days and ended up getting clean and hasn't touched it since. And so it was a magical moment for me to be able to come back home to Colorado, step foot in his studio, pay him a ridiculous amount. No, I'm just kidding. A decent amount per hour, but to pay my friend to put me on in something that we clashed about back then.
That's so dope.
It came around 360, and I'm really proud of the work that came out of it. And I hope that other people can listen to it and sort of reflect on some of the friendships they have, because I know that heroin and meth is still really big in Pueblo, and that there are a lot of people that battle with substance abuse issues. And there is help out there, and your friends don't go away, and they'll applaud you as much as you'll applaud yourself coming back to things.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Yeah, we had a podcast where we talked about sobriety through alcohol. We didn't have anybody that did major drugs or anything. But it's the same. Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It really is. And for it to be so accepted is crazy to me. But yeah, I'm as of 3 days ago, I'm 3 years sober from alcohol.
That's
and
good.
I haven't touched alcohol since. So like, I know how that you got to do it for yourself. Like at the end of the day, you got to do it for yourself. But it's great when you have people like yourself where you're helping your friend through that time. That's awesome, man. That's cool to hear. And that's cool that you made a song about that. I'll have to definitely dive into the song a little bit more now and listen to it with that in mind, for sure.
You know, the coolest thing about that too is the guy that he's talking about is earlier in the podcast when we started, he was saying a lot of the dudes that used to listen to us and kind of like were our closest friends, like following our music. When are you guys gonna put shit out? Like, you guys are the dopest. Like, he was one of those guys. Like, they didn't make music back then. You know what I mean? He was just always pushing us to make music. And then, I don't know. It was probably something that was building in him, but then just started doing his own shit. And now he makes music, and now he's recording us. Like, we the ones that started it, and then now he's making our music. You know what I mean?
It's crazy how that goes.
It's full circle.
Right?
It's wild. Yeah. And he's really good too. And he's especially like in the Pueblo area, he's the biggest guy doing it right now.
Oh yeah, I feel like Pueblo as a whole. I mean, maybe I don't know the scene, but I just feel like he's the scene right now, right? Like,
I feel like anybody that goes.
Yeah. And then up here we have Black Pegasus. Shout out to homie. And then like Just Jay, who I'm working with, and that's where I found I need to tap into a little bit more local. Yeah. I was just putting stuff out there and just hope somebody loves it. But when you're working with other people that are local, you're going to get a little bit more love once they see your face, once they meet you at shows or whatnot. So that's really what I'm trying to do, is tap into just helping people with their music, because it's only going to make me better, right? Yeah. For one, I'm going to try to be the best producer or rapper I can be when I'm on a track, when I'm with somebody. And for two, like, it's just... like I said, just gonna make me better. Like,
and I think it's cool because you're talking about like tapping in with people who are actually doing it. Yeah, like these guys do that. Like Mixed by Blitz, bro. Shout out. I mean, he makes a lot of my music too. Well, he's going to make more of my music, but he's made some of it, and he like, that's his full-time job. Yeah. Like, that dude makes music for a living. Right. And it's like, I think for so long I shut people off because I wanted to make my own shit. I wanted it how I wanted it. I wanted to be the soul. Like, I did everything. And I think that's why it put me in like this little box for so long. And like, even the song that I've made with him, I've showed people, and the reactions that I've gotten from people are like miles more than when I make my own shit. And it's not that I can't make my own music. It's just I'm tapping in with somebody who does that shit. Yeah. Like, that's his thing, you know, it's his lane.
It just adds creativity to it. Like, Just Jay, I have a track with him that I'll show you guys after this, that it will be the first song I didn't mix of mine.
See, that's
and
crazy.
I'm like giving it, I'm like, all this, he's like, get all the stems, get your vocals, send it. And Blizz, not to be confused with Blitz, he's gonna mix it all, and I'm just like, but what if I don't like this? But I'm at the same time like, whatever. To be a musician, and I've seen it on all, like, you're talking about G-Eazy, Lil Wayne, they put their vocals and they sit at the desk while the other dude mixes it, right? Yeah. And they let that creativity go through another person to make the song better. I feel like it just only helps, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think that camaraderie is very important. That's one thing that I learned off of this track is it's so much easier to be able to focus on what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Instead of having 5 different hats that you're constantly putting on and taking off. Before you know it, you're sitting there trying to mix and you still got your rapper hat on and it just doesn't come out right. And then there's self-loathing that comes into play. And then you're like, I'm never going to make it.
And then you're like, my beat's shitty. I'm not a good producer. Like, this is just shit.
No, I get caught up in that a lot where you're like, you write something, you hear it, you're hearing it, you think it's going to sound great. You get on the mic, your first verse, and you're like,
trash.
This is not like what I wanted it to
This
sound
is not what I
like.
envisioned right now.
It's such a bummer.
I got stuck in that box for a long time, and actually Danny out the Box Entertainment, me and him had a little falling out at one point, and one of the biggest things that sparked it was I'd go in the studio with him, right, and I'd record, lay my shit down, and then he would start doing his thing, and I'd be like, no, I don't want that, throw this auto-tune on. No, I don't want that, I want this plug-in. Like, I was trying to take control of that, and at one point he was just like, stop, bro, like, you came to me to record you, like, let me do my fucking thing, and we just had a big old blowout, and it just like hit me right now. I'm just like, damn, I didn't let that dude use his creative like process to make my shit sound good. I was just like, I don't know, so isolated in that I want it how I want it, and yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we struggle as musicians that way, man. Like, we want it to be solely ours, and we want to have our fingertips all over it, right? So when someone else gets in there, you're like, let me chime in. Because I know you had that one track with the homie. Didn't you guys record a video? And you said you submitted everything, you had everything, and then he changed it, he mixed it. Do you know what track I'm referring to? And you like, I hate it.
I do remember, but I cannot remember what song.
Yeah. But, like, tell me how that made you feel. Like,
dude,
you didn't like the track, right?
No, well, because, like, the whole time we were making it, super dope, right? And I was just, like, vibing with it. And there was a little bit of, like, what I just told you, going back and forth and stuff. And then, like, the final product, it just came out, and it just, I couldn't even pinpoint what it was. Like, I remember at the time, I was like, oh, it's lacking bass. Oh, it sounds like it's, I don't know. It just didn't sound right. And I couldn't figure it out. But, yeah, it, like, totally, like, just broke my, like, I was like, no, this is not what I wanted. But then it was already out there. And then I was just kind of like, damn, people already heard it. And
whatever.
Yeah. So, but it also probably was just like a self-critic type of thing, too. You know what I mean? It probably didn't actually sound as bad as I thought it sounded. But, yeah, I remember that.
No, going back to where we were talking earlier before the podcast, so talking about our voices and trying to make it sound different. And when you look at yourself and you figure out, I'm going to do me. I'm going to be me, and people are just going to accept it. I feel like when your originality comes out and you're just 100% original, people love that shit, right? People hook onto it. So if you sound like this guy and then you try to like imitate this guy, it's not going to catch, man. You got to be you.
Yeah,
and that's what I found with your music for sure. Like, I can tell when you're just pouring it out there, man. Like, there was one track where you were talking about, not to get too deep, but your dad and were doing some stuff and
painting.
Yes. That gave me chills, man. Like, that original just flow and everything about it. I'm like, this is a Ryan track, man.
Yeah,
this is dope.
Sure. Yeah, I respect that. Thank you. And that's what earlier I didn't mean to sound like, when I'm like, oh, I only write for me, I only do my shit. But I think that's when I'm at my best, is when it's just like real shit that's like, hurting me, hurting my heart, whatever. Or even on the good end of things, something that just like was really good that happened or whatever. I feel like that's when I'm like the best, is when it's just like coming straight from the soul.
Yeah, it's that flow
and
state,
I can even feel it too when I'm making a song. I'm just like, oof, this is gonna be fire.
Yeah, like I said, it's that flow state, man. I've definitely been reading books and stuff about getting flow and just holding yourself accountable too.
Yeah.
Sometimes where you're in the flow state, you make a track and you're like, oh, that's dope. You got to hold yourself accountable to be like, okay, did I give this up my all? And if you did, when am I going to release it? Start giving yourself like some deadlines, because we all have that track that we liked or whatever that sat on our desktop, on our computer and never got released because there was one thing we didn't like about it. Yeah. So with that being said, do you think after this podcast, do you think it's going to help you be like, oh man, I need to release some shit?
I already feel that way, but I hope that people watch the podcast and like what we've got into or what we end up getting into or whatever, and just kind of realize where we come from as artists and like the things that we struggle with, and like what kind of like motivates us and like holds us back and stuff, and then also take something from that and be like, oh, okay, so next time they see a Cory track or a Ryan track, or you know, then they're like, all right, let me click like, let me just share that real quick. It takes 2 seconds.
So,
you know?
Not to cut you off,
Yeah.
but what motivates you? What motivates you to make music, man?
That's a hard one. I mean, I think like continually through life, like even when I'm at my like best, right? Like I feel like I'm doing the most that I can at that moment. Like I'm always going through something, right? And I think I've gone through periods in time where I just let that shit build up, and I end up channeling it in a way that's super negative, whether that be in things like alcohol or, you know, abusive, not like physically abusive relationships, but just like not good, healthy relationships and stuff, right?
Because it can be abusive emotionally.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
Sure,
yeah. And so I think that's one of the things that motivates me the most is getting that shit out of me, because I can even tell, like right now, I haven't actually recorded a song in probably 4 months or so, and I can feel it. Like I need to get some shit out of me. You know what I mean? Just because like I'm going through a lot right now, and not all of it's bad or anything like that. Just a lot of changes and shit. And that's one of the things that I just is my greatest push, to just be like, I need to get this shit out so I feel better. You know what I mean? So I feel like
yeah.
And then other people kind of know, you know, and like you said, you write sometimes so that people can relate to it. Even though I just write for myself and to get that shit out of me, I still hope that people can hear that and be like, damn, I'm going through that shit too, and you know, and just kind of like take from it or whatever. But
what about you, Cory?
Yeah, I would chime in exactly with that tune. Life is my greatest adventure. I like that, to adventure forward.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's where I kind of got the name from, was Adventure Forward. And the crazy thing is, I first Googled Adventure Forward, and I'm like, hopefully no one has this name. And then and it was a video game for a while, actually. Just Forward. Nobody knows. Adventure Forward was like a little video game. It went under, so all rights reserved. Adventure Forward podcast is good.
That's cool.
But yeah, man, Adventure Forward with life. You don't have to go in depth with it, man, but I know you went through some struggles based in Colorado, and you kind of moved away. Did moving away help with all that? And just tell me, your kind of journey with music, and tell me a little bit about your life, man.
Well, with that, it wasn't necessarily hip hop that helped me through. I'm not happy to say, but happy to disclose that I was married to Charles for a mere 3 years, which is not a long time, and he passed away in 2017. And so after that, I really felt like I had no life here in Colorado. Which I had family and I had friends, but once you invest in somebody that you're willing to take every step forward in life with, and you have those goals and plans built and set forward with them, you're no longer with them. What I felt was that I still had to carry all of those with me, and there was no chance of me adopting a child or owning a home by myself. And so I had to face kind of the reality that I'm alone again, and that I should get back out there. So I had his family, his sister and brother, that welcomed me into their arms in Pennsylvania.
That's awesome, man.
And gave me a place to grow and grieve and get through that. But one thing that I found, and probably one of my happiest moments, is within the first month we stop into this little schoolhouse music, is what it's called. Tiny little place off the road, and they got mainly guitars in there, but acoustic instruments, a lot of strings. And I just fell in love with this little Woods instrument, $100 acoustic guitar on the wall.
Yeah.
When I picked it up, I was like, this thing's pretty and brand new for only $100. That's not a bad deal. And I went to go set it back on its hook, and he's like, nah. It's like, I'm gonna get that for you.
Hey.
It's like, really?
That's dope.
You know, me without $1, without a bed to my name, I'm sleeping on a cot behind his couch, at his house, and he picks me up this guitar. And it had reminded me of how music was always there for me when I was alone. Like, it didn't matter who was around me. I always faced that problem with being with people, not being able to express myself, and then I feel like I'm alone in the corner in the darkness. And so the guitar was always something that I would be able to pick up and just strum along and get something.
Yeah, music is definitely therapy for
sure.
For myself. A lot of times I've found, like you said, where you're just hanging out with your boys, and a lot of times you don't have these conversations where you actually ask questions that you would never ask in a setting of just watching a basketball game or just hanging out around the fire. You're just chilling. But like when we have these in-depth conversations, I just feel I find a lot about a person that like really you can communicate on that level. Going back to you, Cory, as far as like music helping you, did you find yourself finding other different music besides hip hop? And then did you write any during that time?
No, I didn't write any music.
You didn't write any music?
No.
And then I guess recently you're promoting this track. Is this one of your first tracks in a long time, or?
It is.
Yeah?
Yeah, probably over 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years it took off, huh? Do you think now you have experience and more stories to tell, or do you think your new music, or if you're going to do music more, do you think you're going to build on those memories from 5+ years ago, or do you think you're going to start writing about your time in your life now?
I think I'm going to start from now.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot more reading,
Okay.
which helps me understand a little bit more of just my place in the world and you know, not people-pleasing techniques, but how to make others feel welcome in your presence and to help with that. So that's helped me kind of gain a foothold. To chime in on what you said, Ryan, was I was writing a lot to express myself and my own sadness, depression, and things that were affecting me personally. Mm-hmm. And then I would get upset when somebody else didn't relate to that. And maybe it was the Joe Rogan podcast that really kind of hit me, but he was like, I'm not depressed. Like, I physically cannot get depressed. And I didn't realize that there were people in the world that just never touched those types of emotions.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
That my music would never connect with them, but we could still connect on a musical level. And that I shouldn't shove myself into a box to make just sad music. I remember one of our high school homies was in the guitar, and he's like, when are you guys going to make a happy song?
I remember that.
Dude, I've heard that so
so
many times.
much.
But at the same time, like, my best shit is when I'm vulnerable. When I'm like, hey, this is my life. This is what I'm going through. Like, I think that's like some of my realest shit. So do you think going forward, are you going to try to make happier music? And do you think it's harder to make tracks that tend to have a happy vibe?
I think you kind of struck this note, was happiness is derived from within.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. So I think the music will be what the music will be. Like, I would hate to say that something is going to be and then not meet that mark.
Yeah, there you go.
I can't make happy music, bro.
But I would love to try it. Yeah.
No, yeah.
For sure.
That's sick.
No, kind of going back to reading. What have you been reading, man?
One of the books that I'm listening to right now, an audio book by Jordan Peterson. I think it's the 12 Steps of Life, or the 12 Steps for Life.
Yeah,
that dude
I know
is
who
so
Jordan
fire,
Peterson
dude.
is.
I like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, man. Yeah. I've also recently been kind of diving into like self-help, I would call it. Just because you always want to work on yourself, right, man? And like, none of us are perfect. I always I work at Car Toys. I'm a manager. I manage people. Sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me, where I'm like rude to one of my employees. And I found one day I was just being a super dick. I was in my own head. I had a bad morning, and I let that affect my whole day, and I let it affect the people I touched and were around, right? And to me, I'm like, that's nothing good is going to come of that, right? Nothing ever good is going to come of that. So like, I started reading a bunch of books, but one that got me really like happier and like content with what I have as a whole, like, is The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. And he talks about this lawyer who had a heart attack, and he was a big lawyer in LA, and he was making all this money, right? And he had a heart attack while he was presenting a court case. And he literally, once he got better, sold all of his stuff and moved and went to be a monk.
Damn.
So, and he found out that a lot of this material stuff that he was trying to keep and stuff, he didn't want. Like, he didn't care about.
He thought it was making him happy, right?
Yeah, right? So that made me just reflect on the stuff that, like, makes me mad. And usually it is stuff that either materialistic, doesn't really matter, it's not going to affect my life. And it's just made me more content with each day. I try to bring positive vibe, and I try to just accept what can happen and what can't happen, or what will happen and what I can't control, you know?
That's tough.
It's really tough.
It's hard to get out of your own head,
Yes.
especially like you said, when you get in a mood or whatever's bringing you down. It's hard to get out of that or not channel that to other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially people you're with every day and stuff like that. Obviously, it's easy to lash out. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's tough to get out of that.
sometimes you might feel like you need to lean on somebody like that, and you don't realize that you're just spraying them down with a hose of your own emotions, and
then
maybe they're not strong enough to hold that.
Exactly.
No, that's a good point.
So along with self-help, have you tried meditation then?
Yes. I do a lot of... I meditate in the sense where I'll go to the gym, and then afterwards I'll sit in the sauna, and then that's like my time. I'll just put in some headphones and do some binary sounds and stuff, where it just kind of gets you in. Because honestly, man, there's a lot of times where we're just going through life, and going back to the social media, we're trying to compete with people. It's a rat race when it comes down to it, and it's hard to separate yourself from the rat race. And the reason I talk about this is because music recently for me, and like creativity as a whole, I'm gonna just make it, man. I'm content and happy with just being here with you right now. Like, this is where I want to be, and this is what we're doing. Let's do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a good vibe too. I've noticed that change in you too, because before, I think you were actually, the whole self-critic thing I got from you. I actually made a song called I think it's like Critic or something like that. Just talking about how we're our own biggest critics with music and stuff. And I could tell when you made that change, because you started putting your beats out every single week. Yeah. Regardless, you're just I got to put a song. It's Tuesday. I got to put a song out. Yeah. And most of them are bangers. Some of them are okay. You know what I mean? But you didn't care. You just put them out because you're just like, it's my music. I'm just going to put my music out. And I could see that change.
No, I did struggle with that with a couple of the beats, because I was experimenting with sounds, different genres of music. So I was like, I need to brand myself. I need to put myself in the hip hop lane. But I started making some weird synth wave beats, and then I was like, what am I doing here? I was all EDM over at the same time, I'm like, whatever. I'm just putting stuff out, and if somebody likes it, cool. Somebody doesn't like it, whatever.
But the cool thing about that though is, like, you push through even some of the ones that I just say are okay, they're still dope. You know what I mean? But like, you've pushed through all of that, and like some of the ones you've been making recently, like the one on his track, I didn't know you even made that beat, and it is fucking fire.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? So you've like broke through, and now you're just making dope.
It's so crazy, because the first beat I made was at your house. Remember that? On Fruity Loops.
Oh yeah, I do
remember. It had that little sample, and it was on my album. I couldn't even tell you what it was called, but I remember, and you guys heard it, and you're like, dude, this shit is so dope. And that's how I make my beats now. I'm not a musician by any means. Like, electronics and devices have made it easier to make music. And I don't call it cheating at all, but like, I'm not like a Timbaland. I can't get in there and just fucking make a dope track. But what I can do is use the utilities that allow me to make the drum loop this way and perfect. I'm not sitting there doing this. I'm like, drag, click. Oh, that's a drum. That's a snare. And it... Yeah. At first, I struggled with that. I was like, I'm not a real producer, whatever. I'm not making... But dude, I'm creating something that hasn't been out in the world, right? That makes you a creator, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I've been such a hater with stuff like that, dude, because like I have a friend who, and I'm not going to name drop or anything, but he makes music just off of like a phone app, right? And it's not actually like making the melodies, like making the drum. It's just all samples and loops and shit, right? They're dope. Some of them are super dope. He sent me one, and I was just like, "What are you making those on?" He's like, "Oh, a phone app." So I got the app just to see what it is.
What is it?
I can't. I have to. I'll get the name.
I kind of want to try it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I was such a hater with it though, because then he started making all of his songs on those, and I'm like, he's not even making those beats. He's just dragging. You know what I mean? But you bring that up, and it's just like, who cares? Like, if he's creating, he feels good, he's making cool music, then what does it matter?
No, that's what, like, going back to like sampling and stuff. Like, I'll get in a rut where I have a drum loop and I have that on repeat, and I'm like, oh, it's missing something. So I literally just Google some loops or something I can use, just like a little short something I can splice in there, and it adds to the creativity, I think, because
it does.
I used to be like only sample records I had. I used to have the record set up and I would only sample old records. Because I didn't want people to know that it was a sample. But at the same time, man, like, if I did sample something and you kind of heard whatever, hip-hop's been doing that for years. Any song that you hear nowadays is some sort of sample, probably.
Even the songs so I follow this dude on Instagram. He's a DJ, and I can't remember what he calls it, but he does like songs you may not have known were sampled. And
okay.
there's been songs that have blew my mind where I'm like, I thought that was just something they made on the keys or something like that, and it's an actual sample. And I usually feel like I'm pretty good at like picking apart like, oh, that's probably a sample, or that sounds like a sample. And some of the music made these days, you would not think that they're sampled, and they're sampled. And they're sampled from weird things too. Like it's not just old records anymore. It's like a commercial, and they hear like a sound, and they're like, all right. Then they stretch it, and they make this dope ass melody, and it's like, damn, that's wild. It's dope, but I think one of the things that I've like hated on so much with the fact that music is so accessible, like so easy to make these days, is it's so oversaturated as well though. Yeah. You have so many people, you know, with the whole TikTok trend and stuff like that everybody's making music. Everybody, especially around this area and like Pueblo, anybody you meet, they're like, oh, I make music too. And it's like, okay. And like, I don't want to hate, but it's like everybody makes music now. And it's like nobody actually has like the heart, like the creativity, the like drive for it. They're just like, I can do it, so I'm gonna do it, you know.
Yeah. And this isn't, because I was there too, and this isn't shitting on your parade, but like where you heard a beat used by another artist and you're like, that's what made me do beats. Like that's why time lapse is the thing, because you showed me a track that I, on my perspectives, had a track with the same beat, and I was like, never again. Never again is it gonna be the same beat. So I've been struggling with that, because I also want to make an album just solely with my beats. But it's hard, because sometimes I'll make a beat and I wasted all my creativity juices on that.
Can't rap
like when I write to it, I'm like, I don't want to hear this beat ever again, right? So I struggle with the issue of trying to be original, but also using other people's beats. So going back to your music, and let's go through your process of when you hear a beat, you usually just start writing, or kind of how does that all go down?
So normally what I'll do is I always search on YouTube or beat sites or whatever, you know. But yeah, if I find a beat that I want to use, I'll throw it on and just start looping it. And then because I'm usually by myself when I'm making music, you know, and so I'll just start like freestyling to myself, whether it's in my head or out loud. I'm just freestyling. Like sometimes I kind of know what I want to talk about. Sometimes I'm just freestyling, and then I'll hear like a dope line or two that I like, write it down, and then I'll start just kind of like piggybacking off of that, and then just kind of going. And then usually, and a lot of times it's unintentional, but a lot of times I'll have a point that I'm getting to and I don't even realize it. And then like I make the whole verse and I'm like, damn, that was deep. That was cool. And then like now I know what I want to talk about on the chorus, you know what I mean? So it just kind of progresses from there. And I kind of piggyback off of Greaves a lot, another underground artist, if you don't know him. But a lot of times what he does is he'll like write his first verse, right? And then he'll end it a certain way. And then he'll end his second verse like similar, but it's like piggybacking off of that, but like a different side to it or something sometimes or whatever. And or the whole verse will be talking about a topic, and then the second verse is like a reaction to that topic or whatever it is. And I find myself doing that a lot. And I think it kind of makes it easier to write my verses like that too. And I don't know, just makes sense in my head, but that's kind of like the process that I use.
What about you? What's your music process? Because I know you play guitar as well, right? And you kind of have a little bit, I wouldn't say more in-depth music background than us, but I feel
for
like
sure, though.
A lot of your music has been I'm trying to figure out the word, like intended to be different and intricate, man. I just feel like
experimental almost.
I feel like you have just a whole different genre of music, and I love it. And I think that's why me, Ryan, Kevin always gravitated to like TKO, man. His fucking verses are fire.
Like when you stopped making music, bro, I was just like, why, dude? Like,
so I guess take me to you, like through your process and like you writing verses. Like, how does that go?
I think I gotta take it back to inspiration. I come from a broken household, so I never really got the attention that I needed growing up. So I was always trying to fill other people's shoes, and it was always very obvious to everybody else. It's like, oh, you're putting on a front. You've got a facade on right now. Like, I know you're cool. Like, you're never going to do anything bad, but you're not being yourself right now. And so that was something that I strived for in my music, was like, I can take some of the elements that I learned from trying to be other people, and I can really make a path of my own. And I think one of my biggest inspirations, I don't know if you remember your ACT scores for poetry, but it just ended up happening to be that this dude had a perfect score
I swear.
in poetry.
I forgot about that.
And I was like, the perfect? It's like, yeah, number one, like he set the level for poets in the class. And I just like thought back in my head, like I had always tried to meet up to your standard in writing poetry and making music at this time, because we're just starting fresh and young. Like I think we're freshmen in high school when we started this. Yeah. And so I was always following in your footsteps to that, and I was like, wow, well, if I'm number 2 to number 1, that means I'm pretty damn good myself. So it doesn't matter like what I say. I can put my own style to it, and it's still going to come out. It's something decent. It doesn't have to be great, but it'll at least be decent.
It's sick to see full circle, and see like us hanging out right now, and just going back to where we've all had fallouts with our friends, and those friends sometimes come back, and those ones that come back after you're like, hey man, maybe I wasn't right about this or this, those are your homies, man. Yeah. And like me growing up, I've realized that to take relationships personal, like as far as I'm not going to do you wrong. If you still here after X amount of years, 10, 12 years, and you're still rooting for me, that's a homie, right? Like, bro, yeah. To see you two, like, just like homies, because I know you guys did have a little falling out there. Yeah. It just kind of felt like things weren't easy, but like
we probably had a couple, to be honest, over the last 15 years or so.
That's crazy, man. Like I just going back to me, I see me and Kevin as you two. Like me and Kevin used to make music, and like I always aspired to be Kevin, because Kevin's verses and lyrics were always like one notch up, and it only made me better. And now he thinks I'm a better rapper than him. I still say no, but I'm just like, it's crazy to see friends like that after all these years come back, and man,
it feels good too though, bro, because like I have another friend, Rick G. He's doing it big right now too. He's putting a lot of shit out.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out for sure. He's doing shows all the time, constantly.
Sick.
He's always at like Black P shows he throws and shit like that. Okay. He's doing it, and he actually said a comment kind of like that to me before. It's kind of like, you sparked this, you know what I mean? And like Danny Without the Box said the same thing. He's like, you and Cory sparked this, and then now, and it's cool because like I said earlier, all the people that like used to just listen to us and be our friends are like, hey, you guys inspired us, so they're all making music now too, and it's like, kind of feels good.
I don't mean to interrupt, but they just opened for Devin the Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, they had a show.
Sick.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of dope to see them hustling like that, and knowing, and I don't like, not in a cocky way at all, but just knowing that like we probably started all that, because like especially in that area at school, we were the only 2 people that I knew of that I feel like anybody knew of around there that really rapped or made music and shit like that. And then now a bunch of people that we went to school with around that time are now making music. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I still say that when I'm introducing myself to people, because I've rapped for a decade. I was the only rapper. Like that's what I was known as.
I swear we were the only ones.
We were the rappers.
I put that. I know we were the only ones.
Put that on my resume.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little, I don't know, away like in my head sometimes when I see like some people getting, like, I don't know, I want to say I kind of got almost a jealous side about it sometimes too, because there's like another tip, because I'll put a song out and like I said, it'll get like 50 views, 100 views or whatever, and then some of those guys that I'm like inspired to make music, they're putting shit out and then they're getting like 3, 4, 5,000, and I'm like, why? I make like I don't know.
No, it's really hard.
And it's no hate on them, but
yeah, no, I did struggle with that for a little bit too. Is where I knew these other artists and they were putting out music and they were getting X amount and whatnot, but at the end of the day, man, you got to focus on yourself.
For sure.
And also help them out if they need help, or if they don't want help, then give them their praise at least.
Yeah.
And that's only going to make you better once you start figuring out that don't compare yourself to them. Don't try to, I don't know, put them on a pedestal either. They're in your lane as well. So just make your music, man.
We're all doing it,
Yeah, just put it out, man. Like, there's some people that are going to love your music and some people that are going to hate it.
Oh,
you can't change any of that, though. What you can change is how much music you put out, when you put it out, how much content you really want to put out.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is I'm learning that, too, as I get older, and, like, I feel like I'm maturing more, especially with my music. I feel like I'm maturing more. And so I don't really hold that, like, I don't want to say grudge, but like hold that like towards them anymore. But for sure at the start I did.
I feel it's a source of dopamine too, like where we put out this content, whatever it may be, a song, video, whatever, and you want likes, you need likes.
Constantly checking that shit.
So what I focused on is the process. If you focus on the process more than the end goal, you're going to have better results as yourself because you're always putting in time in the process. And when you put something out, you're not like caring about the likes or love or whatever. And that's what I found, like going back to where you were like, oh man, he's putting a song out every week.
Yeah.
That's what I found. I love the process and making beats more than I love people hitting like or comment.
For sure.
And that helps me put out more shit in the long run. It's weird how that
it is,
but
I love that you bring up the psychology behind
Yeah.
it. I recently learned that in pilot school, they teach you to not focus on what you're about to hit. So if there is something in your way, a pilot's trained not to focus on that. You have to get that out of your sight, out of your mind, because if you focus on that, that's where you're going to go.
Oh.
And the psychology behind it that I've learned is that we don't learn from negative aspects of life. We push those out subconsciously. You don't even think about it. And so when you focus on things like the process, when you focus on the positive, that's where you gravitate towards. That's why we need those likes to think that we're accepted, to think that we're doing good, because it does triggers your dopamine.
Yeah.
You remember that was good, so you do it again. So if you're being liked for terrible things, you're just going to end up being terrible until you sit down and you realize, I got to focus on the process here.
Yeah.
There's something other to look at.
For sure. And I mean, that's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we like the process, right? Like we like how it feels to make music.
Yeah.
I mean, we said it earlier. All of us have said it. It's a stress relief. It's like a good hobby. Like it's just fun to do. So why do we care so much about the end goal? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because we're going to make music after this podcast. Not one of us. Maybe one of you guys have a track that we want to work on, but I have some beats that I have
We're just
stored.
gonna see what happens.
But we're going to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And then I also, before we got together, I was like, man, I need to make some verses. And I'm like, no. I'm going to make whatever comes to my mind that day.
Literally,
And
bro.
hopefully I don't have writer's block.
Yeah, same. I told my girl last night. I was like, I gotta write some music tonight. You know, because we're getting together.
Yeah.
No, same thing. I was like, I'm not. I was like, because then I'm gonna try to fit this into like, nah. I just want to see what happens when we fucking chill. And
All right, Cory, so going back to your music, it's been 5 years since you released your last song, or 5 years since you made music?
It's been 5 years since I've even made music at all.
Oh, okay. That's crazy.
it is.
So what was the last track that you think you recorded or put out there?
I know that it was under Treble Clef.
Oh,
I want to say that it's a song called Break Room,
Break
but I'm
Room.
not sure.
And Treble Clef was the group that you guys formed, correct?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That would be Strategy and TKO formed Treble Clef.
Yeah.
So when are we going to have a Treble Clef album in 2022, 2023? What?
Well, that depends if this guy wants to start making music again. You know, he kind of fell off for a minute, but
What would it take for you to make more music, or do you think you're not interested in making a lot of music? Do you want to just kind of take it as it goes right now? What's your end goal in the next couple of years?
I think my big expectation was with music, I wanted it to be my career. I wanted it to be able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I realized that that wasn't the first step. And so now that I have a stable job and I have a place to live and work, it'll be a lot easier to organically make music.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you step back and you're like, okay, this might not be my full job, but it's something I still want to do and I want to put it out there. And if I make money, I make money. If not, that kind of takes a lot of the shit off your shoulders as far as like the pressure to make the best track or put out the best content. So I guess going to you, Ryan, what's your goals in the next couple of years with your music?
I think just kind of like we touched on earlier, just be more consistent with it. You know, like you said, if I make some money from it, like cool, like obviously I'll accept that, right?
Yeah.
But that's not gonna be, because I think I got stuck in that box for a long time too, where it was just like, if I wasn't gonna make money, I don't want to do it, or you know what I mean. And so I think over the next, you know, however many years, I want to get better at like building that community, those, you know, reaching out and just being consistent. Because my biggest issue since I've made music from the beginning was consistency. I've never consistently, like you, week after week or month after month, release something. It's always been like, I'll release something and then 6, 7, 8 months later, I'll release another song. And then it's like a year past and I'm like, damn, I haven't released another song yet. I'm making music, I'm just not releasing it. So
Have you ever sat down and actually like, so for me, I do what's called a storyboard. So I sit down, kind of mark out each track when I want to release it, if I want to release it.
Yeah, I saw that down there.
Yeah. Have you ever used that, or you ever thought about using that?
I haven't even thought about it.
No?
As shitty as it sounds, like I haven't like done anything to like really like work on that part of myself as an artist. And I don't know why. Over 12, 15 years, I haven't like done anything to change that.
No,
I've
to
just,
each their own, man. Because I feel like if I didn't hold myself accountable to dates or certain things, I would never put shit out.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing, man.
I put a song out, I think like a month, maybe 2 months ago, and that was the first song I've put out in like probably like a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's my goal, just consistency.
Hey, man, focus on the small goals, and
Yeah.
hopefully it'll get to your big goal, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You guys have any last comments about kind of music as a whole, or anything that you want to discuss? Kind of leave an open mind right now.
No, I just want to say I feel blessed for us three being in this room right
Yeah,
now.
dude.
Walking in here, I was like, man, I already know this place. This is the first time I've been here.
Yeah.
So something like that's real cool, man.
That's cool, man. Well, thank you for watching Adventure Forward and keeping up with it. I guess, Ryan, tell the people where they can find you and how to find you and how to, I just guess, get on your social media.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't have a lot out right now, but what I do have out, you can find on SoundCloud, Apple Music, Spotify, at RVXN. It's Ryan, spelled RVXN, but
Going back, I don't think we discussed why did you change your name?
man, I honestly don't really know. I think I just associated that strategy with like just my older self as an artist and just the older music, and I feel like
rebrand.
Yeah, and so I think like I told you, I matured it with my music, or I feel like I do. And a friend one time told me that, you know, he was like, I'm noticing like more maturity in your songs and stuff. And so I was like, yeah, that, you know, I noticed that. And I started thinking about that. And then I was just like, I'm just going to do a total revamp. So I changed my name, the logo. I got with David and started making videos, and the motivation didn't last very long, obviously, right? So I got to start working on that. But yeah, so I kind of changed it, and just, I don't know, different path in music that I want to take, you know what I'm saying? But,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, do you have a ETA when you're going to release that music video, Cory?
It's going to come out within the next month for sure.
Next month?
And you'll be able to find it under my birth certificate name, government name, just Cory Kasza, Corykazza.
It's Kasza. I did not know how to say your last name for the longest time. I thought it was Gazga or something.
I'm going to have to work on that as an artist name.
I was like, I don't know how to say his last name, but is that what you're going to go as?
Yes, sir.
Just for the rest?
That's what's up.
Okay, cool. So where can the people find your music?
We'll work on putting it on YouTube first. I love YouTube. I've loved YouTube for probably 20 years
Man,
now.
I'm a YouTube baby for sure.
If it's
I'm
not
like,
anywhere
hey,
else,
find it
it's
on YouTube. And then when someone tells me they don't use YouTube, I'm like,
Bro, I put so many hours into YouTube. It's ridiculous.
I didn't realize I learned how to rap on YouTube, man.
Right?
That's how I learned how to make beats and shit, dude.
Well, it was a pleasure, gentlemen.
Yeah, dude, it was dope.
Pleasure's all
Hopefully we can do this again, or hopefully next time one of you guys are blowing up with some music. But when you release your video, I'll put it in the link below. That brings me to the next point. Hit that subscribe button right down there if you haven't already. Subscribe to these two if you can too. Much love and much appreciated. Any last words, gentlemen?
That's all.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate that. Thanks for having us.
Next time.